Starmerism is actively rolling the pitch for Farage to become Prime Minister, and both voters and members are making their opinions on Starmer's leadership known in the polls. When you look at the favourability of political figures with those who voted Labour in 2024, Starmer ranks lower than Zara Sultana, Ed Davey, and Zack Polanski, with the latter having the highest approval by far at plus 24, compared to Starmer's minus 10. But on top of this, their opinion of Farage is overwhelmingly negative, with a rating of minus 72. That's right, the current Labour Party leader is less popular by a margin of 34 points than Zack Polanski, someone who's only been leader of a party for 3 months. The pandering to reform is alienating so many of their core voters that it's pushing them to parties like the Greens and the Liberal Democrats. And in fact, in the last YouGov poll, twice as many 2024 Labour voters are voting Green or intending to as are intending to vote reform. Well, who can blame them? They're just doing as they're told.
If you don't like the changes that we've made, I say the door is open and you can leave.
You can see how a potential change in direction, change in leadership, could potentially change Labour's fortunes. But the people in charge are oblivious to this, and as Starmer reaches a record low approval rating, the Green Party are reaching record highs in voting intention surveys, outpolling Labour with Find Out Now and almost equal with Labour in the polling with YouGov. There'll be a point of inflection around the budget, but I don't think it'll be enough. I think especially when it comes to the Rachel Reeves-Keir Starmer relationship, they won't want to undermine the budget that they've done, but what reactions with the markets would be if they were to have a replacement for the Chancellor and the Prime Minister at the same time, and they'll probably be waiting if there was a potential leadership challenge brewing to topple Keir Starmer from then. But the real litmus test is what happens at the local elections next year. There could be a case, I think 3/4 or something around that number, of the councils that are up for election in May in England are Labour defences. And lots of these in inner cities where you're looking at the latest polling and the Greens are ahead of Labour in London, only just, and that's the crosstabs on YouGov, right? So don't take it as read. It's a grain of salt is necessary. But clearly, parties like the Greens in London and Manchester and Bristol, parties like independent groups like we're seeing in Broxtowe and Nottingham and places like that, are really snapping at the heels of the Labour Party in these areas. And if they don't change course, and especially if the budget is bad, if the budget doesn't have at least something to give out as a fig leaf to anybody economically progressive, they could face a real test at those locals that could see them totally capitulate, especially in Scotland and Wales, and see huge numbers of their councils being lost from majority control or potentially lost entirely to different parties to their left. And if that happens, then that will be the biggest electoral test as a damning indictment of the leadership. And given that the current rumblings in the background say that they probably already have the 80 or so MPs that they need to trigger that leadership challenge, you have to expect it will happen immediately, quickly. And suddenly all those people who are being very coy about their leadership prospects, about their leadership ambitions, will suddenly come out of the woodwork and declare that they're the people to save the Labour Party from what, again, looks like incredibly existential threat that's happening to them. They've never polled this low, ever. And lots of MPs were gearing up for a decade of serving their constituents and staring down the barrel of being a single-term MP. And that can be very dangerous.